Exposed, the spine-chilling rules of a rural cop in Montana's haunted night. SHFT Sheriff Nate Caldwell always knew the stories. Moonridge was steeped in folklore, places where shadows seemed to breathe, where whispers of lost souls echoed through the pine trees. As he sat in his small office, the wind howled outside, rattling the windows. Nate glanced at the clock. Midnight was creeping close. It was just another night in this quiet corner of Montana, or so he hoped. The radio crackled, cutting through the uneasy silence. It wasn't just livestock complaints tonight. Whispers of shadowy figures lurking beyond the tree line pierced through the mundane. Folks claiming to hear voices. An icy shiver raced down Nate's spine. Was it just wild imaginations fueled by the dark, or was something more sinister at play? His patrol began down the familiar winding road. Headlights scanned the encroaching darkness. The trees loomed, gnarled branches twisting up like skeletal fingers. Nate's heart thudded in his chest. He ridiculed the thought the tales were old-fashioned scare tactics. Yet, despite his resolve, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as the light flickered on a clearing, a misplaced shadow caught his attention. It darted between the trees, something human but wrong, too distorted. Nate's pulse raced. His grip tightened around the steering wheel. Deep down, he felt the darkness intensify, blending with his thoughts. A call came through the radio. A local man was reported missing. Familiar names, the kind that made Nate's gut twist. Friends of his sister. He cursed under his breath, the weight of his responsibilities crashing down over him like the shadows in the woods. Trust, once the cornerstone of this community, was unraveling into suspicion and fear. The town he loved was turning into a flickering nightmare. A dull thud beat in his ears as he raced over every interaction, trying to piece together the chaos. The tension thickened, like a fog pressing against the town. Panic was settling in. As he pulled over to catch his breath, a suspicion's nagging tugged at him. Had he missed something? Were the echoes in the forest real, or just the delusions of his mind? Then it hit him: the stories. The tales of disappearances long shrouded in mystery. His gut twisted tight. Suddenly, the air grew cold as a figure stepped from the trees, a blend of familiarity and malice. Nate's heart quickened. This nightmare was becoming more real. It stared at him, wearing a wicked grin, and from the depths of the woods, an ominous whisper crescendoed, "You shouldn't have come here, Nate." The darkness approached, heavy and dripping, and Nate wondered, as panic gripped him, would he have the will to confront the malevolence that had returned to claim its victims, or would he too become a lost soul wandering among the shadows? The chill wrapped around him like a shroud, leaving the question hanging heavily: would anyone survive the night shift? Nate's breath caught in his throat as the figure stepped closer, a grotesque dance of shadow and moonlight. It had the silhouette of a man but felt all wrong. His instincts screamed at him to flee, to slam the gas pedal down and escape this nightmare, but his feet felt glued to the ground. The creature before him tilted its head, eyes glinting with an unnatural hunger, promising a darkness he didn't want to understand. That he fumbled for his radio, heart hammering against his ribs. "Dispatch, this is Sheriff Caldwell." His voice wavered, the crackling static mocking his desperation. "I need backup. There's something out here." The response was slow, drowned in an unsettling silence that stretched far too long. The thing smiled wider, its teeth sharp and yellow. "Nobody's coming for you, Sheriff." The words dripped like poison, and a sickening chill wrapped around him, emanating from the figure. Panic surged, flooding Nate's body with an urge to run. He didn't care about folklore or ghosts anymore, a primal instinct took over. He broke free from the immobilization, throwing the patrol car into gear. The tires screamed against the gravel, kicking up dust. As he sped away, he glanced in the rearview mirror and caught a glimpse. The figure stood alone, a deformed spectre silhouetted against the moonlit trees, watching him disappear into the night. The road stretched on seemingly forever, the headlights illuminating nothing but darkness. The trees seemed to lean in, murmuring secrets as they passed. Nate's mind raced. Was it a trick of the light? A figment of his imagination? The whispers returned, echoing the words of folk tales that spoke of a curse over Moonridge, a reminder that the legends were never mere stories. That he struggled to focus, heart pounding. The radio crackled back to life, but it wasn't T-Dispatch. A distorted voice claimed his attention. Nate, come home. It was a familiar voice, one he hadn't heard in years, twisted with dread. Lisa? He gasped, like a lifeline thrown into a tempest. Is that you? Help us, Nate. The plea faded, replaced by a chorus of distorted cries. Names of the missing danced on the edge of his consciousness, threatening to drown him. The memories flooded back, friends lost in the woods, never found. He swerved onto the dirt road toward the old Johnson property. Maybe someone there had seen something, anything. The house loomed ahead, a ghostly silhouette. As he stepped out, every instinct screamed to turn back. The shadows conspired around him. Help us, Sheriff. This time, the voice surrounded him, not just Lisa's but the others, two faces twisted in anguish, desperate hands reaching through the fog. The air grew thick, wrapping around him like icy chains. He stumbled toward the porch, drawn by an unavoidable pull. Something had awoken, something he couldn't yet see, and it was hungry. Nate's heart raced as the door creaked open, revealing a dark interior where whispers blended with laughter. The air was thick with decay. A flickering lamp illuminated a figure in the corner, a grotesque mockery of humanity. More shadows shifted, and the weight of despair pressed in. Join us, Sheriff, it panted, grinning. You've always been one of us. Nate's mind spiraled with horror, racing to make sense of the impossible. He couldn't just abandon them, not now. But what if to save them meant losing himself? He lunged at the shadows, screaming, I want to let you take me. The darkness surged, pulling at his clothes and skin, and just as it closed in, he felt a swift chill brushing against him, a promise that something far worse awaited if he failed. What choice would he make? Would he surrender to the dark call of the lost, or fight against the inescapable fate that crouched behind him? The door slamming shut echoed like a boomerang, setting off the alarms of his sanity. But within that cacophony, a question took root, twisting like a vine through his mind. Could he truly escape the depths of Moonridge, or was he destined to join the chorus of the damned? The air thickened, a palpable shroud of despair wrapping around Nate as he staggered inside the old Johnson house. The flickering lamp cast erratic shadows, twisting the familiar space into a hall of horrors. He could feel the weight of countless eyes upon him, their unseen presence crawling along his skin. Each hushed whisper sent a tremor through his bones. He was no longer just a sheriff, he was prey, hunted by the very nightmares folklore warned him about. Join us, Sheriff. The figures in the corner danced in his periphery, half-formed, like memories he desperately wished to forget. They reached toward him, skeletal fingers outstretched, their mouths moving, but the words were drowned in an ocean of echoes. Memories. Names. Faces. All that he thought he'd buried beneath the dust of time. Help us. A voice rang out clearer than the rest, one he recognized all too well. It was Lisa, the partner he couldn't save. You hold the key. He turned, heart hammering in a frantic rhythm. What key? What do you mean? The grotesque figure grinned wider, lips peeling back to reveal a jaw that hung too low, a smile that promised agony. The key to our freedom. Nate's palms were slick with sweat as he scrutinized the shifting shadows. Bits of light danced along the walls, morphing them into grotesque shapes that nearly choked him with fear. He had chased shadows before, but never like this. Suddenly, a light flickered, illuminating a door at the far end of the room, a door he knew shouldn't exist. As the dim light wavered, it flashed images of anguished spirits, a chaotic parade leading him down a forbidden path. He felt a craving, an insatiable need to approach it, as though it was calling his name. "Stay!" roared the thing in the corner, its voice now a furious hiss, "You must not go there." But he moved forward, each step feeling like treading through molasses. The sense of dread intensified, a crushing weight against his chest. The cries grew louder, morphing into a cacophony of torment mixed with despair. "Help us, Nate!" they begged, a haunting reminder of his failures, of trust shattered and bonds broken. He reached for the door knob, a chill biting at his fingertips as he turned it slowly. The door creaked open, revealing an abyss darker than a moonless night. Thick tendrils of shadow wormed their way towards him, whispering promises, lost tales of those who had been snatched away by the cursed woods, souls destined to be swallowed whole. A voice thundered from behind him. "The only way out is through." The grotesque figure lunged, its jagged mouth widening, malice radiating like heat waves. Nate gasped, adrenaline coursing through him. With a frantic leap, he slammed the door shut. Silence descended, wrapping around him like a grave blanket, but just as quickly as it came, the whispers returned, softer, more insistent. "You can't hide, Sheriff." He whirled around, charging back into the room. The shadows hissed, a desperate attempt to shift back into the darkness. An unshakable fear surged through him. "What do you want from me?" he screamed, willing himself to stand tall, though trembling inside. The figure stepped forward, its form morphing into a patchwork of screaming faces, all twisted in anguish. "To live. To die." Nate backed away, heart racing as the air thickened, suffocating him. He combed his mind, searching for answers as flashes of the missing swirled around him. What connection did he have to this place? Then a pulse of clarity pierced through his panic. He could make a choice, break the cycle. In that fleeting moment of realization, he whispered, "I will not join you." But the house trembled, shaking with anger, and the shadows coiled tighter around him, promising doom. Then face the truth, Sheriff, about what really happened. Before he could react, the walls began to breathe. The echoing cries stifled into a menacing growl, demanding searching. Nate stood on the precipice of revelation, but now he knew each name had a story buried just beneath the surface of this cursed ground. Would he discover the secrets, or would they consume him whole? As the air grew thick with dread once more, he gripped the doorknob, preparing for whatever lay ahead. The true horror of Moonridge was behind that door, hidden beneath layers of pain and deceit. What haunted truths awaited him, and would he survive them to tell the tale? A deafening silence enveloped Nate as the walls settled around him, a rhythmic pulsing echoing in the space where chaos had just reigned. He clutched the doorknob tighter, knuckles white with the effort to hold on to the remnants of his sanity. The shadows curled away from him, distracted by the door's brief respite. Yet, behind him, crushed whispers grew louder, a desperate tide rising against the dam of his resolve. "Face the past, Sheriff." His breath hitched. The disembodied voice echoed in the corners of the room. Every word wrapped around him like a vine, choking out his thoughts. He could feel the weight of guilt pressing down on him, each missed call, each lost face a stone in his pockets, dragging him deeper into the abyss. "What happened? What do you want from me?" he called out, though his voice trembled. "Open the door." The command hung thick in the stagnant air, laden with dread. The door behind him beckoned again, the cracks in the wood whispering tales of those who had crossed its threshold, tales of despair and reckoning. Sweat dripped from Nate's brow, heart pounding like thunder in a still sky. He took a step back, unsure of whether he should confront that which lay beyond or flee the relentless assault of the figures looming in the shadows. With a surge of anger, he shouted, "I'm not afraid." The shadows hissed in response, a chorus of pain echoing from the dark figures twisted against the walls. "Not yet, but you will be." Their words crawled under his skin, igniting panic as they poured into his ears with an icy chill. Suddenly, the lights above flickered violently, plunging him into darkness for just a heartbeat. Adrenaline spiked as he stumbled, grappling with the terror feeding on his fear. The empty space echoed with their haunting lullabies, voices intertwining into a single, chilling melody, "Join us." Nate felt a tug of longing, a cruel temptation to cease the suffering, to blend into the disgraceful legacy of this haunted house. But Lisa's face surfaced in his mind, her eyes pleading from beyond the grave, urging him to hold on to the last shreds of his will. No! He shouted, shattering the amalgamation of voices. He forced himself to face the swirling shadows, steeling himself against their spectral touch. I want to be another ghost in your story. In that moment, the air shifted. The walls pressed in closer, throbbing with a wicked pulse. You think you can escape the truth? The voices twisted, their tones mocking, cunning. You already are one of us. Nate clenched his fists. I'll find the key. A sinister laugh erupted from the darkness, reverberating through the room, sending shivers down his spine. The key is not a thing, Sheriff, it's a choice. A sacrifice. Confusion raced through him. What had he to sacrifice? Time. Life. Friends. Images of unsolved cases flashed through his mind, each name, each face, each loss he bore. They all spurred him into action. That a sudden crash shattered the deafening silence. The door he had slammed shut behind him burst open, revealing the yawning void he had tried to escape. A black, swirling mass filled the entrance, tendrils of smoke reaching out like desperate fingers. Run or face the void. Nate stood frozen, caught between the pull of the abyss and the need to seek the truth. He realized the choice was deeper than mere survival. If he ran, who would suffer next? He inhaled deeply. The weight of the past clung to him, but he had to know. As the shadows encircled him once more, he heard their whisper drift through the air. The truth lies in the heart of the shadows. With every ounce of courage he could muster, Nate stepped toward the door, fully aware that what lay inside might be the very end of him or the only chance to save everyone he had failed. What bore down on him from the dark was not just terror, but revelation. As his foot crossed the threshold, he braced for the onslaught, wondering if he could truly endure the depths of his own reckoning. Would he unravel the secrets of Moonridge, or would he finally be claimed by its dark legacy? The darkness enveloped Nate as he stepped into the void, the air thick with an acrid stench that clawed at his throat. Something dripped from the low-hanging shadows, cold and viscous, creating a rhythmic patter against an unseen ground. His pulse raced, drowning out the echoes of his whispered fears. What had he just entered? The swirling mass seemed alive, curling and twisting like a serpent coiling around its prey. He strained his eyes, searching for glimmers of light, something to anchor him to reality. Instead, he was met with a parade of tortured faces, his colleagues, victims, people he had failed. Each visage twisted in agony, mouths open in silent screams, their eyes accusing him of his past mistakes. Stay with us, a chorus hissed, voices bleeding together into a maddening symphony of despair. Nate stumbled back, almost colliding with the threshold he had just crossed. But behind him, the splintered door slammed shut, sealing him inside the depths of his own guilt. Lisa, he breathed, the weight of her absence nearly incapacitating him. What have I done? Something slithered closer, brushing against his ankle before retreating, the sensation chilling him to the bone. The shadows stood as sentinels, mocking his internal struggle. You thought you could face us without consequence? They whispered, the voices dropping to a dangerously low, hypnotic tone. That a flicker of defiance sparked in his chest. I didn't come for your judgment. He shouted, surprising even himself. I came to confront my failures. The darkness rippled as if responding to his words, and the faces in the shadows began to morph. They shimmered and twisted, becoming a ghastly representation of his past cases: murdered children, missing townsfolk, the families that sought justice but received none. Each face carried a story, one Nate had failed to solve. He turned his head, unable to bear the weight of their scrutiny. What do you want from me? The question spilled out, raw and desperate, echoing in the emptiness. Your heart, a voice cooed, painfully soft and enticing. Sacrifice your heart, or lose everything. What does that mean? Nate stepped forward, curiosity edging out fear. The shadows thickened around him, tendrils prickling his skin, as if urging him deeper. To save their souls and your own, you must expose the truth, they hissed, voices swirling like smoke. But it will cost you dearly. He thought of the glimmer of light in Lisa's eyes, her laughter, their life together. But as he looked around at the despair surrounding him, memories turned bitter. Each life lost gnawed at him, a sharp reminder of the burdens he carried. Could he truly rip out the festering guilt that had rooted itself so deeply? The longer you hesitate, the more their suffering grows, they taunted, relentless. Choose now. Nate's heart raced, a drum against the suffocating silence. What would he have to sacrifice? And for whom? Could he stand the weight of another loss? But deep down, he knew opposing these shadows wouldn't mean simply confronting them. It meant diving into the depths of his own sorrow and pain. The truth could fracture him or set him free. He took a deep breath, feeling the icy grip of the void intensify. If I have to confront the truth, then let it come. He shouted, determination rising from the ashes of despair. The shadows burst forth, an overwhelming tide against him, their cries of anguish twisting into horrid laughter. They surged, making the darkness swirl and flash images, memories raced before his eyes, but just as a piercing scream erupted, Nate felt his frame begin to splinter beneath the weight of it all. In that flashing moment, the shadows fell silent, leaving a space for clarity. A new understanding loomed before him, a choice that would impact more than just his own fate. What truths awaited him? What hidden horrors lurked in the corners of his memory? As the terror wrapped around him tighter than ever, Nate felt a spark of conviction. He was not ready to yield, not yet. But would he be strong enough to withstand the upcoming revelation? Just then, a flicker of red light erupted from the depths, illuminating grotesque shapes that crawled toward him, whispering secrets he didn't yet know. Face the truth, Sheriff. Nate's breath hitched as the red light engulfed him, almost blinding in its intensity. The grotesque shapes twisted and contorted, their features glistening with an unholy sheen. It felt like staring into the depths of hell, a realm where hope was choked out by evils long forgotten. What are you? He gasped, fear clawing at the edges of his mind. One of the shapes, taller than the rest, stepped forward, its elongated fingers twitching like scavengers ready to rip flesh from bone. It hovered just inches from his face, its breath hot and rancid, sending a wave of nausea surging through him. We are the echoes of your failures, the skeletons in your closet. We are the past you refuse to confront, it hissed, voice dripping with malice. Every word stabbed into Nate, shooting pain through his chest. No. I want to let you take me. He shouted, the anger igniting within him like a wildfire. The faces in the shadows burst into laughter, a cacophony that chilled him to the bone. Fight all you want, Sheriff, but deep down, you know it's true. You are as guilty as they are. The truth hangs like a noose around your neck, the creature snarled. With one swift movement, it reached into the void, pulling forth an image from the murky darkness. Nate's heart plummeted. It was Lisa. Her laughter turned to screams, eyes wide with terror as she faded away. The image shattered like glass, leaving jagged fragments that sliced into his soul. Stop it! He screamed, shielding his face. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Oh, but you did, the figure crooned, coiling around him like a serpent. You turned a blind eye, Sheriff. You let your guilt protect you from viewing the real horrors. But those left behind? Their pain clings to your every decision. Nate felt himself wavering, their sinister words twisting like knives, each thrust piercing deeper. Memories of mistakes flooded him, cases left unsolved, accusations that turned to dead ends, families robbed of justice. The weight of it all pressed against his chest like a millstone. I was doing my best, I'm not a monster. He choked out, desperation washing over him. Something within him broke, and he had to face it, even if it meant tearing at his own heart. The figure's laughter morphed into mockery, echoing off the walls of darkness. Your best. What a lovely excuse. But your missteps have consequences, Sheriff. This is only the prelude. Suddenly, the red light pulsed again, and shadows moved like a tide, revealing more grotesque forms. Each one clutched a piece of his past, fragments of his history that whispered horrifying truths. A missing person. The wrong man incarcerated. Lives shattered, all his doing. Join us, Nate, they beckoned, their voices dripping with a honeyed poison. Let the truth wash over you. It's much easier to sink into the darkness than to fight against it. In that moment, he felt the heavy weight of despair almost swallow him whole. All he'd done, all he hadn't done. Could he really bear the truth? The thought of facing Lisa again, of seeing her pain, twisted his insides. Would embracing the truth mean losing what little hope remained? No, he whispered, shaking his head adamantly. There has to be a way. Then sacrifice what you love, they promised, an unsettling aura of allure weaving around their words. Lay it bare on the altar of remorse. Sacrifice your heart to reveal their truths. Nate's resolve began to falter, the shadows pooling closer, whispering sweet nothings that seduced him with every syllable. He couldn't let go of Lisa, the only light left in his life, but could facing the truth save her? Another vibrant flash of light surged forth, severing through the dark. It pulsated like a heartbeat, projecting an image of a door, his office door where solutions had been forged, where he had kept his past buried deep. Nate stood rooted, the pulsing light beckoning. Would he step through it, confront the horrors beyond, or succumb to the growing darkness that promised relief from the turmoil? One choice. One moment. Everything hung in the balance. Then, the chilling howl of an unseen creature echoed from the depths, sending a shiver down Nate's spine. Dare you face what lies within, Sheriff? The question lingered as a new, sinister presence peeked from the shadows, ready to reveal everything he feared. Will your heart pay the price? The light pulsed again, casting eerie shadows that flickered across Nate's face. The howl faded, but the oppressive weight of the darkness thickened around him. His breath quickened, every nerve ending igniting with raw terror. The door shimmered, a beacon of possibility, yet filled with the dread of what lay on the other side. That he stepped cautiously toward the door, the swirling darkness clinging to him like a shroud. Was this really where he wanted to be, facing the terrors of his mind? Was he ready to unravel everything he had buried? A whisper crept into his ear, chilling him to his core. Open the door, Nate. See what you've done. His hand trembled as it reached for the knob, heart hammering in his chest like a warning drum. Doubts clawed at him. What if stepping through meant unearthing horrors so profound he wouldn't survive the truth? Your love demands it. Lisa deserves to know. The voice coiled around him, insidious and sweet. He inhaled deeply, the rancid stench of the figure still echoing in his senses. It couldn't be worse than the misery of his memories. Inside, he felt the hunger for absolution, the desperate need to find a way to redeem himself. With a single, swift motion, he turned the knob. The door creaked open, releasing a gust of stale air that tugged at him. It felt wrong, like peeling back the scab of a festering wound. Crossing the threshold, Nate was thrust into an unearthly landscape resembling his office but warped, grotesque. The familiar desk lay askew, papers scattered like leaves in a storm, tarnished badges reflecting a dull light. Shadows writhed among the clutter, twisting every familiar object into weapons of betrayal. Welcome home, Sheriff, the creatures crooned from the deep recesses of the room. Fear gripped him. The walls seemed to close in, pressing against his skin. What do you want from me? He shouted, his voice trembling. We want your truth, Nate, they hissed in delight. Share it, and let the shackles of guilt shatter. Tell us. They urged. Tell us of the girl you've forsaken. The one you let slip away. Images surged forth in his mind. A teenager lost to the night. A case buried under too many excuses. The screams of a mother pleading for justice. The faces of the families he had failed. You can't. Nate faltered, clenching his fists, fighting against the tide of memory that threatened to drown him. Yes. They surrounded him now, their forms dancing in the dim light, each haunting figure a fragment of the truth he'd concealed. Set yourself free. Tell us what you feared most. As chills coursed through him, he felt the piercing gaze of his own conscience settle like a stone in his soul. It was raw, haunting. This wasn't simple. Tell us how you abandoned Lisa. They hissed, urging him closer to the edge of despair. No. Nate screamed, stumbling backward. I never meant to. Yes, but intention matters little. The girl is gone. You chose ignorance over courage. The price must be paid. He shook his head vehemently, desperation spiraling. What price was he willing to pay? Then, through the hazy mess of darkness, a flicker of light pierced the gloom. It grew, illuminating a doorway at the other end of the office, a corridor leading out. His instinct screamed at him to run. But where to? Would leaving mean letting his failures swallow him whole? The laughter echoed around him once again, growing louder, more manic. Confront your demons, Nate. Or forever be damned to this hell. He felt a sudden twist in the air, the space around him pulsating ominously. Wounded memories collided, each one demanding recognition. Then came the whisper, creeping ever closer, a voice he recognized. Help me, Nate. The shadows fell silent, and Nate's heart dropped. He knew that voice. His chest tightened as gravity weighed on him. Lisa, he murmured, fear paralyzing his body. In that moment, he realized the truth was more than he had feared, and that he might not be the one making choices in this twisted nightmare. The shadows bristled, shifting with anticipation. What will you do, Sheriff? Time is running out. As the walls around him trembled and the shadows surged, his choice loomed larger than life. Would he risk everything for a chance at redemption, or would he turn back toward the promises of darkness? Will you save her or save yourself? The echo of that question loomed over him as the chaotic night deepened, spiraling further into the unknown. Nate's heart thudded against his ribs, a frantic drum urging him toward action. The flickering corridor beckoned, but the shadows nipped at his heels, whispering chilling secrets with each step he hesitated to take. What will you choose? They taunted, as if his indecision stirred their hunger. Lisa, he rasped again, desperate for a response, but only silence answered, pulling him deeper into a darkness that felt alive. The weight of his guilt wrapped around him like concrete, holding him in place. He knew he couldn't just stand here, not when the memory of her voice sliced through the air like a blade. The corridor loomed before him, a narrow, light-filled slit splitting the oppressive darkness. Hesitance grappled with necessity, and those tortured faces pushed at the edges of his mind, twisted in silent agony. Their damning judgment seared into him with each pulse of that flickering light. Step into the truth, Sheriff. The shadows coiled around him, their grip tightening with every second he lingered. The realization crashed over him like a wave: he couldn't outrun this. Running would only loop him back into the very same nightmare. With a deep breath, he surged toward the light. Each step resonated with pain, and anguish roared in his ears. The corridor tightened as he pushed through, the light growing blindingly bright before him. But when he stepped through, the brilliance fell away, leaving him alone in an expanse of wailing darkness. Help me, the voice echoed again, clearer this time, filled with a plea that twisted his gut. Nate. It was sharper now, urgent. He recognized it was the sound of fear mingled with hope. His breath hitched, and every bone in his body screamed to find her. He stumbled, almost losing his footing as the shadows flickered, morphing into distorted images of Lisa's last moments. Her laughter, once a melody in his life, now turned bitter, mingling with regrets that came clawing back. He trapped himself in those memories, wanting to shield her from it all, wanting to keep her safe. But what had that cost him? Nate, the call was desperate now, spiraling through the dark. Her figure emerged, hazy yet alluring in the midst of the chaos. He could almost reach out and touch her. But was it really her? Or was it another twisted trick of the dark? The laughter erupted once more, a cacophony of anguish and mockery. Can you reach her? Can you find her? They swarmed him, specters wrapped in anguish and despair. He was losing himself in this desperate chase, grasping for anything that could bring him closure. "Tell the truth, Nate," the shadows hissed from all sides. "Your love demands it, as does your twisted fate." He staggered forward, urgency coursing through him, a flicker of determination igniting the void within. "I abandoned you, Lisa," he shouted, each word cutting through the dark like a dagger. "I chose the badge over you. I was too afraid, too cowardly to stand up for you." The world around him shifted, the shadows recoiling as if struck. The corridor seemed to pulse, resonating with the honesty of his confession. "I'm sorry." Each admission was a cry to the darkness, a plea for forgiveness, but he didn't know if he deserved it. Suddenly, the laughter changed, it twisted into something deeper, sorrowful yet filled with malicious glee. "Would you have fought for her if it were anyone else, Sheriff?" They sneered. Nate felt a chill run down his spine. "What?" he faltered, the truth slicing deeper still. The shadows weren't just taunting him, they were revealing him. As he stood there, his mind flooded with the weight of his choices, a sharp crack reverberated around him. The corridor fractured, light pouring through the cracks, but a darkness threatened to consume him as he felt fingers cold, desperate reach for his ankle. "Help me, Nate!" screamed Lisa's voice, a wail echoing from everywhere and nowhere. It surrounded him, and he knew, if he didn't act, it could pull him down into the abyss forever. "Lisa," the word fell from his lips in a choked whisper as he fought against the surge of despair. The shadows clawed desperately, resisting his resolve, leading him to the brink of a decision. But Nate felt a glimmer of hope ignite deeper within. He could save her. "Will you fight for her?" a voice murmured, thick with smoky insinuation. "I will," he shouted, focusing on the glimmer of light, resisting the shadows with every ounce of strength in him. "I will not lose her again." The shadows howled in fury, and for the briefest moment, the abyss hesitated. But all around him, the darkness churned with madness. "Then face your final trial, Sheriff. Will you be the savior or the destroyer?" As that question hung heavily in the air, he plunged forward toward that flickering light, feeling every heartbeat echoing in synchronization with Lisa's desperate call. The cacophony grew louder, each wail wrapping around him as time twisted and spun. What awaited him on the other side of his choice? Would he emerge to save her, or would he drown alongside his guilt? The shadows recoiled, and he could hear them close behind, relentless as he reached for the light, a frantic heartbeat in a race against fate. What final torment would consume him if he failed? The truth awaited him, dark and ugly. As he pushed forward into the light, he could only wonder which side of the darkness would claim him. The light exploded around him, blinding and fierce. A wave of heat engulfed him, but it wasn't the warmth of salvation, it was a furnace, roasting him from the inside out. Nate shielded his eyes, a scream clawing up his throat, but just as suddenly as it appeared, the light flickered, then flickered out. He stumbled to a stop, landing hard on cold, damp earth. Instinctively, he rolled onto his back, gasping for breath, the stark chill of reality jolting him back. The darkness wrapped around him like a living cloak, thick and suffocating. Above him, shadows writhed as if they were sentient, their whispers clawing at his sanity. "Welcome, Sheriff," they hissed, their voices swirling around him, each word laced with mocking amusement. Nate froze, the weight of dread crashing over him like a tidal wave. It was not over, they were still here, still watching, still waiting. "Where's Lisa?" he shouted, trying to drown out their laughter echoing all around. "Can you hear her?" they mocked, darting in and out of his peripheral vision like fast-moving phantoms. "She calls for you, but can you walk the path?" He scrambled to his feet, the wet ground slick beneath him, as reality twisted and turned. He could almost hear Lisa's voice again, sweet and desperate, mingling with the shadows. Each syllable wrapped around him, pulling him forward as he struggled against the soft ground. "I'm coming," he yelled, pushing against the cold grip of despair attempting to tether him to oblivion. "I'll find you." As if in response, the air thickened, and the essence of dread seeped deeper, smothering him with visions of what he left behind. Guilt ricocheted in his chest. Faces emerged from the void, those he failed, those he took for granted. The townsfolk, once familiar, now twisted into masks of blame and sorrow, their mouths moving in silent screams. "Is this what you wanted?" The shadows taunted. "To face your ghosts? To remember every misstep? Shut up!" Nate roared, clenching his fists as he plunged deeper into the murky darkness. "This isn't me. I can change." But there was no escape. The ground beneath him shifted, morphing into the familiar streets of his town, yet warped and distorted by his own fears. The streetlights flickered like dying stars, casting elongated shadows that twisted and danced, giving life to the horror that filled him. "Choose, Sheriff." They screeched. "Will it be the truth or a lie?" "Stop!" He cried out, helplessness clawing at his throat. He could feel his sanity fraying at the edges. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the darkness like fragile glass, cutting through the cacophony. Nate's heart plummeted. "Lisa!" he shouted, panic flooding his veins. Was that truly her? He fought against the swell of terror breaking over him as he bolted toward the sound, the shadows thrumming with anger behind him, their voices crescendoing into a wretched roar. The closer he got, the more the air around him crackled with tension, choking his resolve. "Will you stand for her?" they howled, fury and sorrow blending into an ugly symphony. "Or will you turn away again?" With every heartbeat, Nate pushed through the darkness. He could almost reach her, a fragmented, flickering image in the distance, just out of reach. "Help me," it came again, a whisper threaded with agony. I will." Nate gasped, desperation mixing with determination. The shadows pressed tighter, the air growing thick with clawing darkness, as whispers of doubt spiraled around him. "I will not lose her." He strained toward her, but the shadows surged, dragging him back, claws of despair biting into his flesh. "You can't save her. You never could." Fractured memories overwhelmed him, moments of laughter and love drowned beneath a deluge of regrets. Would his desire to fight be enough to drown out the whispers of despair? Or was fate already sealed, and Lisa lost to the void forever? Heart pounding, Nate lunged forward, grasping for whatever light remained. As he surged into the remnants of that lost warmth, the shadows lunged, a tidal wave of darkness crashing against him as a voice rang out, echoing through the blackness. "You will pay." The darkness rippled, shadows twisting at the edges of his vision as he plunged headfirst into uncertainty. What if this moment would seal his fate? Would he be ready to face the truth, or would he succumb to the whispers of the damned? As he hurtled toward the source of that haunting cry, he knew one thing: the journey into the heart of darkness had only just begun. Nate's world erupted into chaos as he staggered through the dim haze of shadows, the suffocating grip of despair closing in. "Lisa!" The name tore from his throat like a lifeline cast into the darkness. But her figure, shattered and elusive, slipped further from his grasp, taunting him, echoing promises of pain mingled with hope. The shadows shrieked, a din of voices rising in a feral frenzy. "You've come so far." They writhed around him, their forms flickering between anger and amusement, each cry clawing at his resolve. "But can you save her?" He could almost hear her laughter, her joy coating memories that twisted like thorns. He pushed forward, desperation clawing at his heart. Would they truly have him choose between saving her and preserving his own sanity? "No!" he shouted into the maelstrom. "You can't have her. I want to let you take me, not again." With every ounce of strength, he lunged toward the shimmering figure, the pulse of hope growing larger in his chest. "I will fight. I will face the truth whatever it may be." The air around him crackled with an energy both dark and vibrant, casting long shadows over the ground. Face the truth. The figures danced, merging and separating, creating a macabre ballet of anguish. "You are the truth, you are the darkness." They surged forward, a wave that threatened to drown him in their despair. Nate's breaths quickened, the weight of their words settling over him. Empty visions of failures, missed opportunities to save lives, to protect someone he had loved came rushing back. Each face was etched into the forefront of his memory, gnarled in accusation, but Lisa, he had to save her. I can't change the past. He yelled above the noise, shaking with the intensity of his turmoil. But I can fight for the future. Determination surged within him as he realized that this confrontation was not only about her, it was about his own redemption. The price for the truth must be paid. As if sensing his resolve, the shadows hissed, a chilling breeze swirling around him. But they began to retreat, their forms twisting into a vortex of darkness. Then you must wish for her freedom. They screeched, their wrath igniting the air with a crackling tension. Make your sacrifice and embrace the truth. Nate felt it, the choice settling like an anchor in his heart. It was a choice he had feared for so long, the truth costing him something dear. I will, he vowed, voice low yet steady. And with that admission, he thrust himself into the heart of chaos, into the abyss where all secrets lay hidden. The darkness enveloped him entirely, sinking into his skin, his memories, turning them alive like the pull of gravity. Suddenly, he was no longer alone. A warm light flickered ahead, illuminating the outline of Lisa, her face twisted in agony and hope. Nate! She called, and the desperation in her voice shattered every barrier he had erected. Lisa! The urgency propelled him forward, every instinct screaming to reach her before it was too late. The shadows lunged, hungry for his resolve. Help me! She pleaded, her hand outstretched, but the figure was blurring, wavering under the mounting pressure. Let her go! He roared, sheer determination roaring through him. I face this darkness for her freedom. As those words erupted, a fissure split through the shadow's oppressive weight, a beam of brilliant light bursting forth like a phoenix from its ashes, illuminating the twisted truths hidden within their dark eventuality. Nate stepped forward, the brightness pushing back against the suffocating darkness. Face your sacrifice, Sheriff. Echoed the shadows, their voices frantic now. Face it before she is lost. In that moment, the realization coursed through him. He had to confront his guilt, his failures, or risk losing Lisa forever, spiraling into an endless void where shadows and despair threatened to swallow him whole. With renewed clarity, he reached deep within, exposing the peeling layers of doubt and remorse. I'm sorry. Nate shouted, the confession ripping from his heart. I let fear dictate my choices. I didn't fight for you. The light brightened, igniting the shadows around him until they writhed in pain, distorting into grotesque forms. Then let it burn away, Sheriff. They screeched, retreating from the siren call of honesty. But know that the truth will cost you everything. Nate took another step, feeling the warmth of the light engulfing him. I'll pay any price. His heart thundered like a relentless drum. For her. For everyone I lost. The scream of tortured lives reverberated through the shadows as he plunged deeper into the light. As the oppressive darkness began to unravel, he saw Lisa staring at him, fear and determination mingling in her eyes. I'm sorry, Lisa. I fought for you. He shouted, and in that instant, everything shifted. In a brilliant cascade of light and shadow, revelation struck Nate with the force of a wave, the dazzling intensity consuming him entirely. He felt the tendrils of darkness fall away, revealing the truth wrapped tightly in the pulse of his own aching heart. The shadows howled, twisting in furious recognition as the truths of not only his past but those of the lives he had encroached upon unraveled before him. And in that devastating moment, he knew what he needed to sacrifice, and it was not just his heart but the heavy burden of a suppressed history choking the very spirit of his being. The laughter of the shadows faded, replaced with the radiant glow of hope, illuminating the path to redemption, a glint of life beyond the darkness, where forgiveness awaited. With that light emanating from within, Nate surrendered to the truth. Join us! Cried the shadows, but he had already forged a new path, guided by the brilliance of understanding and the flame of courage set alight by love. As the dust settled and silence enveloped him, Nate stood strong, anchored in the choice he had made. The air was clear, fresh, and filled with the echoes of hope. Here, the trappings of guilt dissolved, and where the shadows had sought to consume him, he had risen anew. With a deep breath, he turned. The time had come to walk forward, to embrace not only the memories of those lost but the boundless strength that they had gifted him. And as he stepped through the remnants of darkness, a new dawn broke across Moonridge, one that promised to heal not only him but the town itself. "Lisa!" He called again, casting aside the last remnants of fear, ready to embrace the love once lost in the shadows. No longer shackled to unseen chains, he emerged, alive, and when their eyes met, he felt whole again. "Let us go home," he whispered, heart full as they stepped into the light together, ready to face whatever lay ahead, and just like that, the shadows receded. If you loved this story, don't wait another moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now, it helps us feed the algorithm, and seriously, it makes a difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this gripping conclusion. And for the love of all that's supernatural, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to hear the thrilling end of Nate's journey. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans know the importance of keeping our community alive and kicking.